Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. In today's video, I'll be making some fun Thanksgiving cards using new products from Pretty Pink Posh. Here are the main products I'll be using for my card. Pretty Pink Posh's Stitched Turkey die set, the Layered Leaf Lattice stencil set, Sentiment Strips fall stamp set, and also the Sentiment Strip dies. And I'll also be using the Stacked Edges set number 1 die set. We'll start off by stenciling the background. I have a silicone mat on my craft surface, and I'll be using one of Waffle Flower's grip mats. These are great for stenciling since it'll hold your paper and stencil securely in place. I have an A2 size piece of white shimmer cardstock. I love stenciling on specialty cardstock. I'll place the cardstock piece on the grip mat, and now it's not going anywhere. I'll add the first stencil layer. It has that lattice design. I'll line it up on the cardstock piece. Then press it firmly, making sure the outside edge of the stencil is pressed on the grip mat. The ink color I'm using is Distress Oxide Vintage Photo. I'll make sure to get good coverage going over any areas where I didn't get quite as much ink. You can always just peel back some of the stencil, just make sure you don't remove it completely. That way you can see if you need to add any more ink. So once I'm happy with the results, I'll remove the stencil. Now I'll grab the second stencil layer, and it has all these tiny leaves that will go in the intersection of that lattice background. Press the stencil down firmly. The ink color I'm using is Distress Oxide Crackling Campfire. I think the ink pad cover and the actual ink pad have more of a red look, but when you use it, it's really more of an orangish red. I think it's perfect for some lovely fall leaves. I'll slowly work my way over the entire stencil, trying to get even coverage with the ink. Then I'll remove the stencil and look at that beautiful background. Now, since I did stencil on some specialty cardstock, I did let it sit for several minutes. I don't want that ink to smudge. I'll grab another silicone mat, and this is one that I've cut down. I do a lot of ink blending and gluing of die cuts on this piece. I cut out 4 of the Stacked Edges chevron die cut pieces, and I used a wood grain pattern paper from Echo Park. Now these pieces are wider than my card panel, and that's why I'm gluing them on top of this small silicone mat. If I have extra glue on the outside edges of those die cut pieces, I don't want to get that glue on my workspace mat. The silicone mat is much easier to clean up extra adhesive. So one by one, I'll adhere 4 of the Stacked Edges die cut pieces down. And I love how the edges just nest up together. Pretty Pink Posh's Stacked Edges die sets were some of my first purchases from Pretty Pink Posh, and they're still my favorite. I've had them for many years, and they are still available, so I don't think I'm the only one that loves them. And there are now 3 sets available, so lots of different shape options. I'll adhere the final Stacked Edges die cut piece down, pressing firmly. It does take a little bit longer to adhere since I am gluing it on a specialty finish. Now I'll flip over this panel, use a pair of scissors, and trim off the overhang. So now those die cut pieces are flush on the right and left side. I'll put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base. And this is an American Standard A2 size card, 4 1/4 inches by 5 1/2 inches. So now it's time to assemble the adorable turkey. And this is really easy to assemble, even though it looks like lots of different layers. I have all of the die cut pieces stored in one of Scrapbook.com's stack and sort trays. There are some tiny pieces and I didn't want to lose them. I pulled out the small silicone mat to do all of the gluing, and I'll start with the background of the turkey. I used a reddish orange solid cardstock from Scrapbook.com. Most of the solid cardstock colors I'm using for the turkey are part of Scrapbook.com's Harvest Smooth Cardstock paper pad. For the individual feathers, I cut out 4 of them from some teal cardstock. Thought I would go with some non-traditional turkey colors. I did trim off the very end of some of the teal feathers where they were overlapping one another. For the smaller feather piece of the turkey, I used a peachish pink cardstock color. This is also from the Harvest paper pad. For the turkey's body, I used some brown cardstock. And the turkey's feet I cut out of dark brown cardstock. I'll put just a tiny bit of glue on the top of the turkey's legs and attach the body. I'll flip it over, put foam dimension on the back, and I'm using the small foam squares from Scrapbook.com. This is the 1 millimeter thickness. When adding the foam pieces, I made sure that a couple of them were adhered to the legs and also the body. Then I'll get good coverage on the back of the rest of the body and head. Then I'll remove the release paper, add my little turkey body in front of the feathers. Now it's time to add the turkey's face, and this is where those tiny die cut pieces come in. I'll first add a tiny drop of Barely Art glue on the turkey's head, and I'll add the beak. And I'm picking up those tiny die cut pieces with the wax tip end of Scrapbook.com's Craft Pro Pick tool. I adhered the little red skin piece on the right side of the turkey's beak. Next I'll add the 2 eyes. I'm trying to get them evenly placed. Since I am using liquid adhesive, there is that little bit of wiggle room so I can adjust everything. Now I'll add the front 2 wing pieces. Since the very end of them goes off of the turkey's body, I will pop them up with foam dimension. But in the area that sits on the turkey's body, I'll adhere it down with some glue. So there is my little turkey all assembled, super cute. Want to add a little extra decoration using a white gel pen. Some of the areas I'll add a little curved line and a dot. On the pink feathers, I'm adding 3 little tiny dots. Also did a few highlights on the wing feathers. This is a quick and easy way to add a little extra detail to your die cut or stamped images. And then a final highlight, I'll put a white dot in the center of the eyes. I think that really adds some life to the turkey. Or as my teenage daughter always tells me, if I don't add that little white highlight, they don't have a soul. And we don't want that for this sweet little turkey. For the sentiment, I've already stamped out Happy Thanksgiving, stamped it on some light orange cardstock, and I cut it out using the Sentiment Strips die set. Also cut out 2 of the banner die cuts from that same set, one in the same teal as some of the turkey feathers, and the other in a dark brown cardstock. I'll adhere the 2 banner pieces together, offsetting them slightly so you'll see just a peek of that dark brown color. Now I'll flip it over, and I will pop it up using foam dimension, using some black foam strips from Honeybee Stamps. I'll also pop up the turkey using the same foam dimension. I want to make sure to get good coverage on the back. Don't want one area to sag. So I'll put a small piece on the end of each of the feathers and fill in the very center. Now the tiny little feet of the turkey, I also want to pop up with foam dimension, and I will use some slightly thicker foam dimension from my stash. I do need to cut teeny tiny pieces since I don't want it visible from the front of the card. And very carefully I'll remove the release paper. Try not to rip those tiny turkey legs. Now remove the release paper behind the rest of the turkey and also the sentiment. I'll adhere the sentiment onto the card first, putting it about 1/2 inch up from the bottom, maybe a little bit less. Then I'll put the turkey right above the sentiment. I'm having most of that turkey sit on those wood grain stacked edges die cuts. So there is my finished card, and I love how this turned out. The little turkey is just adorable. I did end up making 2 cards following this design. The other card, I only put 3 of the stacked edge die cut pieces, and I didn't think it was enough, so on the card I recorded with you, I added 4 of them. If you are interested in any of the products I used in this video, I do have links in the description box below. And I'll also add a link to Pretty Pink Posh's September 2024 release. There are so many fun, amazing products for fall and autumn cards. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.